And we're going back. Psych! You thought I was gonna press the button, didn't you? So did I. I took a break at that time, coincidentally. And at the end of our Temtem session, I was telling Andrew, like, hey, the people that made Fallout New Vegas, they made a new game, when he didn't know about that. And then yesterday, he was streaming it for a few hours. I didn't really sit there and watch the whole thing, because I don't want to encounter spoilers necessarily, and so on. And also, I don't have the time. But then he just immediately walked into characters that I never encountered. So I've got some more exploring to do. I was kind of going in that direction because of the fact that I just had this point where I'm like, I don't know, I don't know of any loose ends to cover. So oh, that's clearly an ambush. And since I didn't really know any other loose ends to cover, I was like, I guess I'll continue the story, right? It's one of the things where the part where you let's play the game can be in conflict with how you normally would play the game. Because I could pour over every particle of the entire map, but that's going to be a very long, slow series. So I've got to figure out a balance of finding the characters I want to find, but also not overdoing it. A good example of that is the fact that like there's all these people complaining in the Psychonauts series that I spent X amount of time in the overworld and not doing the next mission, and so on. You always gotta walk this tightrope. So when I ran out of stuff to do, as far as I could tell, I thought we were done. It's like, I guess I should continue the story, but I guess I just never walked into town. Like, this is the front gate. So I guess we'll check this out. Here's where they're burying people. Man. I don't have a great impression of this place. But this would have not helped. This really would not have helped my impression of this place if I saw this first. I guess there's a whole, like, linear, scripted-looking zigzag path you're supposed to take in here with, like bandit ambushes like we saw back there, and, like, a greeting party, it looks like. And like a dramatic entrance to the place. But because I played this game like an open world game, which is what it's supposed to be, I just immediately like wandered slightly to the left and took the other door in and completely missed like what seems to be like a linear welcoming moment that's supposed to be like your first impression of the game, essentially. Huh. Like, it's so, looking at this welcome, like that ambush and everything, like it does seem so perfectly set up to be your first experience. Yeah, I haven't been there yet either, have I? That's funny. All right, well, let's finish episode 1 now that we're like 8 episodes in or something.
Hey, Miss Parvati, come for a visit?
Not today. Just helping this fella.
I pressed F instead of R again. That's a problem for me.
Don't go ambling out in those hills. That's marauder territory, friend.
Everywhere is marauder territory except for the small half square mile inside those walls. Just passing through.
Ain't safe out here. You'd best head into town. Avail yourself of Edgewater's high walls and low prices.
I never got your name. I'm Steve Buckworthy.
Pleased to make your acquaintanceship. I'd shake your hand, but I've been hauling corpses. You don't want none of that on you. Name's Silas. Junior in humor for the town of Edgewater. We're all part of the Spacer's Choice family.
Junior in humor. Who's the senior in humor? Is he inhumed already? Junior in humor, fancy title for a gravedigger.
Hey, I earned that fancy title. Started off a lowly junior gravesite builder, then junior interment engineer. Oh, and I was a junior burial assistant for a time.
Do you ever get to not be junior? Also, what are these orders? Gravesite builder, interment engineer, burial assistant, but still in humor. Junior and assistant almost seems redundant, doesn't it? You seem pretty old to be a junior or anything.
The rate I've been working, I'm bound to earn a promotion. Must be about 50, 60 burials away from associate in humor.
I don't think 50 people live here. Not now. I'm looking to make a little money while I'm here.
Got a knack for being discreet-like? There's money to be made, long as you keep your nose clean. Edgewater is a company town, board-owned and operated. That includes the cemetery. None of us own our gravesites, we rent them from the company. Renting means money. Money means paperwork. Paperwork means signatures. Some of our families become a mite delinquent in paying their dues, you see?
How the hell do you rent your gravesite? Seems like a permanent... It really seems like a permanent arrangement to me. Does that mean you pay a monthly fee to be buried? Like... Does that mean every generation another person dies, the family has an increasingly higher monthly fee? How does this work? You're making people pay for their own graves?
Company policy. If it was up to me, I'd put the whole town 10 feet under, free of charge.
Why can't you collect these fees yourself?
Quotas, mostly. Got a backlog of graves to fill. Bodies won't bury themselves, you know?
Alright. I'll collect your fees for you.
4 workers still haven't paid up. Phyllis, Conrad, Ludwig, and Martin Abernathy. He's a special case. You may want to twist his arm a little.
Not gonna lie, it's less that I want to collect fees and more that I want to meet more characters. This is my chance, it looks like. Why is Abernathy a special case?
He just is. Look, I don't want to get into it. Just make sure he pays up.
Where can I find these people?
Conrad's got a barber shop in town. Phyllis works at the Cannery most hours. Abernathy... I ain't seen him in a few days. His domicile is near the Cannery. You'll find him in town. All except Ludwig, that is. He's over by the landing pad.
There's something else I wanted to ask you.
Yeah?
This town must be in pretty bad shape if it's keeping you employed.
You could look at it that way, I suppose. You could look at us and say, those Edgewater saps lost near every soul to plague. But you'd be wrong. We're survivors. Loyal company folk, brave in the wilds.
Survivors and loyal company folk who lost damn near every soul to the plague. You're not worried about falling sick?
Every now and again, a virulent plague sweeps through our town. That's life on the frontier, I suppose. A body grows accustomed.
Not most of them. Most of them die of plague. How long have you been a junior in humor, gravedigger, whatever?
Hang on, I'm doing some math in my head. 20, 30, carry the 1. All my life? Work's been real good to me. Fresh air, exercise. Only problem is the paperwork. Can't get anybody to pay their gravesite fees.
Only problem is the paperwork, not the body hauling. You lose a lot of people to marauders?
Former people, yeah. Marauders been raiding my graves, you see. Hence the armed guards.
What are they after, loot?
Oh no. They are after the most precious loot of all. Spacer's Choice Company property. If those marauders swipe any more bodies out of my cemetery, company's gonna dock my pay.
They're stealing the bodies. Have you considered having the cemetery inside the walls? Thanks for your time. You can see the world get visibly darker while the conversation was happening. Oh, they used to have headstones. They used to have actual headstones that seemed to be hewn from the local rock, but then they just kind of moved on to pieces of wood. They look like chairs, basically, or benches. And yeah, they're getting wiped out by plague. They're completely being devastated. And like their company knows that, and they're not sending more medicine. These are new graves. Like every now and then there's one that seems flat and you're like, okay, it's probably aged enough, like the rain and whatnot has like evened out the texture over time and stuff. But like a lot of these look like they're freshly buried as far as I can tell. And that's just, there's more than you could count, really. I mean, you could count them, but I'm not going to. Oopsie. Lifetime net value 6,385 bits. Samuel Cadden. That's all they're known for? How much they were worth in their life? That they're being taxed on now? Does that determine how long they're allowed to stay here? Vicky O'Neill, epitaph pending calculation. They have to calculate her net worth in order to give her an epitaph. Only a few of them are interactive. It's kind of hard to tell which ones. Oop. Theodore Granger. Lifetime net value 3,092 bits. Wait, didn't I kill Theodore Granger during the last quest? Samuel Cat. Are these the people I just hunted down? Were they all buried here? Wait, that doesn't sound right because I didn't bring their bodies back. There's another body here too. Y'all are having a bad time. There's a whole other side over here. Oh god. How many people even came here on the colony? This seems comparable to the number of people that were on that ship that I was woken from. Except they're all dead for good. I don't know if you guys want to have like a little local depression here in the middle of the park. And then, I mean, in the middle of the cemetery, that's gonna be a lot of water. Lots of standing water. Alright, well, let's go meet some characters.
Huh? What? I wasn't dozing off.
Huh? What? I wasn't dozing off.
I gotta say, this kind of assuaged my guilt. I was a little worried about like cutting the power off here. It was really the fuck them, fuck it all nature of it all that was letting me move on beyond that worry. Was the fact that I was like, but this place is doomed and these people are awful and they deserve it. Not the people individually necessarily, but the system itself deserves to collapse, and these people kind of need to. Oh, are these the good boys that get super graves? Of course. But like, this system is so awful that it deserves to fall apart, and whoever's left to figure out what to do from there, because there needs to be a change in leadership on a fundamental level. Also, even the rich people are all dead. Look how many of these there are. How the fuck have these many people died? This place doesn't even seem old yet. Like, holy shit, man. At the rate they're going at, and the number of people that are currently in the plague building, and the relatively low population of people that are inside the place overall, like, is this like an anti-marauder guard? They have these set up to protect the valuable people. This is a nonsensical number of corpses. Oh. Right, this might fuck up the math a little bit. Some of these are probably the graves of the people who aren't dead yet, right? Because they pay for them? That's a full-on mausoleum. Still seems like there's an endless number of bodies, though. Because it still means all the ones that are dug up looking are people who are already dead. So the flat ones might be people who aren't dead, but these are all dug up already. That means that somebody was buried here. So no, I still kind of stick with my previous assessment. Like, there's so many people that the system is failing, that it kills more and more every day. It hardly even seems like a net negative to just turn the power off altogether and have them deal with the ensuing chaos of figuring out where to go when their world falls apart. Because their world is actively killing them right now in its current state. Early retirement. Do you want to end your years in luxury and comfort? Do you dream of walking beneath the vaulted arches of Byzantium? Early retirement's finally here. Early retirement is your ticket to Byzantium. Early retirement is Chairman Rockwell and Minister Clark's gift to you. Selection for the early retirement process is by lottery. Winners enjoy an all-expense paid trip to their new life in Byzantium, the Jewel of Halcyon. Is Byzantium real? Is Byzantium real, or do you get murdered and thrown into the grave? Because... is that like when they take your pet to the farm? I don't think Byzantium's real, because that form is in the gravedigger's house. That's super concerning. Oh no. But considering this is the system is actually failing everybody in it, it seems like they'd be better off moving on. And part of how I think about this is the idea that, like, if they get wiped out, like if the power gets taken out, then they'll have to move on to the greenhouse lady as refugees, and seems very willing to take in refugees. She seems generally very accommodating and just a generally better leader. I don't know about her exact leadership skills necessarily, as like making tough choices and all that, but she's not deranged and completely brought into this nonsensical nightmare system we're dealing with here. So that's a step forward, at least. And what they could do is once the refugees arrive there, and if she's smart as a leader, one thing that she could do is she could take her copy of the power transformer or whatever the device is called, and she could just take it here to Edgewater. They could all move back into Edgewater with her as the leader, and the refugees having rearranged in society and so on. And so, like, there's nothing stopping them from just taking that same device and just bringing it back here and reviving Edgewater under a non-insane system. So they're not. So if you have the thought of like, well, how is that tiny camp going to support that many people? The answer is that it doesn't have to. All we need here is a revolution. And if everybody has to join this secondary society that they don't respect right now, and the guy who's at the top has his fall from grace, then they've kind of already won. Although they might still revolt against that when now they're used to revolting and so on. I don't know. Still would be an improvement at this point. Inhumers Association. Subject: a special offer. Dear reader, your subscription to the Inhumers Association newsletter has expired. We'd like to invite you to renew your subscription. Act now and we'll throw in a copy of our newest publication, Shovels, Gazette, and Quarterly. From Spacer's Choice Human Resources. Official advertisement text. Edgewater Cemetery is a property of the Spacer's Choice Company. The Spacer's Choice family takes care of its own, from the cradle to the grave. Gravesite plots and headstones are provided by Spacer's Choice at an affordable rate. Comfortable, spacious plots, custom engraved headstone and monograms, complimentary eulogy courtesy of the Order of Scientific Inquiry. Let your spirit rest in the privacy of a Spacer's Choice brand gravesite. So all their life they're conditioned to completely give in to the system that they're living in. And then when they get sick and need help from the system ignores them and just watches them die, and then they charge them for their grave. Takes care of you from cradle to grave, and if it's profitable, they'll make sure to hurry you on towards the ladder. Nice advanced retiration system. Name: Theodore Granger. Cause of expiration: industrial accident. Burial status: successfully interred in gravesite 13F. Gravesite fees: paid and accounted. Inhumer's addendum: Teddy's corpse was missing a hand. Deducted 5 bits from gravesite fee because I'm a kindly fellow. Wow, you're so kindly. Oh, he justified it as because his hand was missing, so there's less body to bury. Which definitely does not actually account into this if you're trying to think of it that way, but isn't he so nice? So that must be yeah, that's the guy who got his hand ripped off at the cannery. We saw a note of that before. The mantis swarm. That's a hell of a sky. Well, we got ourselves a few locals to meet now. Some of these are people we've met before.
What can I do for you?
Silas sent me to collect your dues.
Ah, Gravesite fees. Silas and I had talked about this at length. I thought I'd made it clear my pecuniary situation precludes the necessary restitutions.
You mean you're broke?
As broke as pie crust, friend. Bitless, indigent, destitute. I simply cannot afford it. I am a blemish on the prosperity of our fair settlement. When I expire, I expect Silas to toss my body into a ditch.
You have a very loose definition of the word prosperity.
Edgewater is built on the discipline and sacrifice of its people. Say what you will about our town, but we all pull together. Tell Silas I can't afford to pay, and that I fully expect to have my medical rights revoked for this dereliction. With my apologies.
You guys don't pull together for shit. You abandon each other to the waste, and whenever anyone steps 1 foot out of line, they're completely exiled from society. You're happy to cut any chunk of you off. It's been perfectly clear. Hang on, medical rights?
Some time ago, I fell ill with the plague. By the grace of the law, and through my own hard work, I'd proven worthy of treatment. Frankly, I don't imagine I'll earn that right a second time. The barber work hasn't been profitable, you see. I've had to keep this old place running with my own savings.
Just give Silas an IOU.
Not a bad idea. But I'd need some kind of collateral. My pair of lucky clippers. No, that won't do. Your idea intrigues me, but I'm afraid I don't have anything to give Silas. I'm open to suggestions.
Cut off your hand. Eh. What about Eugene's gold teeth?
You know about Eugene? How?
I'm a mind reader.
You were probably poking around my things. I really shouldn't leave my letters sitting out in the open. Eugene's golden teeth were a family heirloom, representing 3 generations of poor dental hygiene. He took them to his grave.
They were probably worth a few bits.
More than a few. Those teeth were his personal savings. I can't ask Silas to dig up a man's body and pry a few teeth loose from his jaw just to pay my bills. Can I?
Are you asking rhetorically? Because if you're being serious... Ugh, gross.
Desperate measures, Miss Holcomb. Desperate measures. I'm going to have to ask Silas to dig up those teeth. It's the only way I'm paying my gravesite fees.
Are you sure about this?
I'm sure that I have no other choice. Here you are. Gravesite papers affixed with my signature and an IOU.
Goodbye. Okay, that took a turn that I didn't expect. Either I misremembered or misinterpreted the document I originally read, because I thought he already had the teeth. But apparently he's going to dig them up. I totally thought that he already took them. That's sufficiently grim in a way that's emblematic of the entire system. Have fun.
Yes, Mr. Thompson. I'm fine, Mr. Thompson. Never been healthier.
Oh, are you trying to pretend to not have the plague?
Whoa, did Mr. Thompson send you? Well, you tell Mr. Thompson I'll be right at my post. Tomorrow. Bright and early tomorrow. Because I'm definitely not plagued. As spry as a spring chicken. That's old Abernathy.
You want to tell me what's got you so nervous?
You some sort of wandering alienist? Walking into a man's own domicile, pestering him about his mental state?
I'm positive you mentioned something about being plagued.
You don't know that. I could have been saying anything. Maybe I said vague. You know how words sound a mite strange when you're sick. Wait, no. Oh, damn it. Okay, listen. Maybe I am feeling a little under the weather, but I swear I'm on the mend. Please, don't tell the constable.
Why not?
She'll toss me in the sick house. I would have confessed before the good vicar. Get some ablutions for my spirit. Just never found my courage is all. Hey, you're hale and healthy and possibly for hire, ain't you? Do a good turn for an expiring old man.
How can I help?
There's a cache of anthracillin tucked away in the old community center. Powerful stuff. Stronger than what we got, anyway.
Fuck.
I need you to break in, nab that medicine, and bring it back to me.
Sorry, Abernathy. Gave that anthracillin to someone else. It's part of why I want to burn this place down right now.
You what? But why? I was dependent on you.
I never met you.
Does it feel good? Robbing an old man of his last shred of hope?
The fuck are you talking about? I didn't know who you were. That happened hours before I met you. That dialogue does not adequately reflect the context of what happened. I'm sorry, I did what I had to do. That's not accurate either.
Betray a man in his final hours? Of course, I understand. Hell, I'd probably do the same to you, given the chance.
Huh?
So, you just here to watch me die, or what?
I like this guy, he's funny. I do it too. He's all betrayed. I fucking gave it away before I knew you existed. I thought, oh, this town, it seemed like a pretty clear key and lock situation. Oh, this town needs plague. Oh, I found a bunch of medicine. Here, now you can help with your plague people. And they're like, cool, we're gonna burn this. And like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's why I hate this place. I'm here to collect your gravesite fees.
Silas knows, doesn't he? That's why he sent you. That's why he wants me to pay up. He knows. Here, take my fees. I'm never getting that medicine, so I may as well buy myself a grave. Something nice and wide, with plenty of room to spin around inside.
I'll leave you be. I wish there was more options in this conversation. Like, one, I just wish that you could acknowledge the idea that I gave it away before I ever met him, so it's his betrayal is weird, and me embracing his betrayal and not explaining myself is weird, but whatever. But on a weirder level, he apparently has convinced himself he has no hope of survival. So why can't I tell him about the deserters who are currently out there having their own colony, and they're alive? And I've met the crazy wannabe marauder chick who, like, specifically got saved from her plague by the awesome lady that runs that place. So, like, that's relevant information I should be able to spread to basically everybody who's sick here, right? Like, hey, the system is failing you. Look at all those many graves outside. You're going to die, and this place won't love you back, so stop giving a shit about it. Stop being loyal. Instead, go out there and pursue the actual chance of survival you have. Like, I have this information, but I can't do anything with it. And it's a little frustrating, because I feel like I should be able to do something about that. It's up there with when I was in Fallout 4, when I was at the place, like the late game area, and I found a relevant piece of information that I would have really liked to talk to the leadership about the kind of bullshit they're up to. But you could never talk to anyone about that information, so finding it was pointless. Hello, Esther.
I've got some time.
That's nice. No, it defaulted me back to that because it started his quest, but then it was instantly over, I think. Long tomorrow. Yeah. I finished that quest before he even gave it to me. Did I at least get a bunch of experience for being a dick? But like an accidental dick or something? Cause like, once again, Abernathy, the person you should feel betrayed by is the part where I gave your leadership the medicine that could have saved you and possibly other people. And they were just like, that's going in storage and we're never going to use it. At first I was like, oh, it's going to go in storage and they're going to like, when she first started talking and she said it's going to go into storage, I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to have to like distribute it be through their unjust system of hierarchies, which is fucked up, but at least it'll help somebody. And then she specified, oh no, we're not going to use it at all because it's from the rival corporation, so we can't use it. I'm not the person he should be mad at, but because he's mad at me, he'll continue to not get mad at the system around him that he should be mad at. And that's one of the ways that capital often works.
You're fast.
System often specifically benefits from getting the people that should be mad at the system itself to fight with each other instead, and blame each other for all of their woes. It's not capital that's your enemy, it's immigrants. All those dirty immigrants. They're the ones that cause all of your bad to happen. I say while I'm literally walking around stealing everything. I'm a Fallout player. Am I overburdened? Am I overburdened? I am. I was looking around the screen for like an icon or something to indicate that. I didn't see one. Well, that looks neat. Yeah, I'm not sure about Blade on Stick, but it has a glowy background, so I should probably try to sell it or something. It might be worth extra money compared to other items, like an unusual amount of money, or so I might hope. There you go. That's probably the land pad that was mentioned earlier. Definitely a cargo shipment area, so it's probably a landing area.
Freighters in every Sunday noon. Now they only come but once a month. I love the wind here.
Oh, there he is.
Thank the law. I've been requisitioning backup for months. Guess the boss finally came to his senses. You ever swung a truncheon? Let me see your rifling stance. I want to make sure you're up to snuff.
God damn, this side lighting on your face is badass. I found you at the right moment. Are you okay? You seem confused.
I'm talking about mechanical soldier. Cold, heartless automatons made of iron and lies.
Yeah, gotta watch out for those mechanicals.
That's right. That's what I've been saying. We gotta square our shoulders and stand ever vigilant. Auto-mechanicals. Creatures forged in the fires of malevolence. I seen them over by the old power plant, clattering about, firing at the birds, orchestrating their uprising. When the swarms of mechanicals come clanging on over that hill, where will you be? Cowering beneath your cot? Or standing shoulder to shoulder with the resistance?
You don't gotta worry about that. I took them all out. They're all dead. You're welcome. I pretty much took care of shit. If your resistance needs another gun, I'm for hire.
I've been gathering up a war chest over the years. Saltuna cans mostly, some Spacer's Chaw, few bit cards. I'll reward you for your aid.
How many years old are your bit carts? I'm a little concerned. Proper armies pay enlistment fees, you know.
Enlistment fees? Yeah, I suppose. Wouldn't want to give the resistance a bad name.
So what do you need done?
They have sent a scout, prowling around the junkyard just behind our beloved town. The scout must not be permitted to return to its base of operations. Cross it off, then report back.
I kind of want it to report to its base of operations, honestly. Like, it'll go back with its news, only to find that there are no other auto mechanicals and it's the last of its kind. Be kind of funny. I'm going after this mechanical scout. I could use a couple of pointers. I don't know if a poor little boy like me could ever handle such a big, scary monster.
Mechanicals got a weak spot in their midsections. I think the technical term is, the blue glowy square thing.
Oh, I would have liked to know that earlier, actually. I was shooting them in the head. Silas sent me. You owe him gravesite fees.
I told Silas I'd pay my dues if he agreed to join the resistance. Guess this means he's finally heard the calling.
That's not how paying for things works. Got a question for you.
Go on.
What exactly do you do here?
I'm Ludwig Miller, Associate Security Officer for Transportation. Officially, unofficially, strictly between you and me, I am the only thing standing between Edgewater and total annihilation.
Wait.
Go on.
I think I have more questions for him, don't I? Yeah. What do you have against mechanicals?
You ever seen the way a mechanical just stands there? Just looking at you, scanning you with its murderous oculars.
They've done more. They've tried to murder me. In fact, in one time of the line that they succeeded, actually. The funny thing is he's supposed to sound like a crazy, delusional, like, he's supposed to seem unhinged, but I found the murderous mechanicals that have wiped out an entire camp first. Which, well, yeah, was itself another entire area where the system has failed and the people, the leadership and so on. And, like, the people here don't even seem to know that everyone there is dead. They sure haven't buried the bodies or dealt any of the problems. I'm pretty sure that's what they were programmed to do.
Mechanicals have been programmed to eliminate the human race. They've been programmed to replace us. First, they will rob us of our jobs. And once they have taken away our livelihoods, they will take away our very lives.
No, that's just called a post-scarcity society. Like, if mechanicals just automate all the jobs that have existence, then that means you go beyond a system where jobs are necessary. And then you just live, pursue things that make you happy instead of having to work 8 hours a day at Starbucks or more. Like, it's not like it's inherently self-actualizing to do, like, wage labor all day. Like, some people are lucky enough to have a job that they can get something out of, like me and other people and so on. But, like, a lot of people have jobs that just make them miserable every day and don't even necessarily have a intrinsic value to society either necessarily. So they're just kind of making the numbers work. Like, it's mandatory to pay the value you need in order to have, like, food and a house and so on. So that means you got to work the hours, even if the whole concept feels pointless and maybe you're in a cubicle where you've automated your own job out of existence but haven't told anyone yet so that you can keep getting paid, which is something that I did. I had a spreadsheet job where I just automated my entire job in the first few months, and then I was like, I guess I'll just keep showing up. Like, I mean, I gotta have a job. That's how society works. But I've gotten rid of the need for my own labor. I've literally done this to myself before and lived the redundancy lifestyle of being somebody who doesn't have a purpose anymore. And yeah, at some point, it's just because you're doing your time. You have to go in for X number of hours in order to have permission to exist in society. being an exaggerated, but only somewhat exaggerated version of society, this game and this place, they're fully drinking the Kool-Aid and super not willing to look past that potential of like what should be a good thing. This covered a few different things like zeitgeist moving forward or humans need not apply and a few other videos on YouTube and so on, but like it's just, or just the very concept of Star Trek. But like there's a breaking point where like living in a post-scarcity society is supposed to be a good thing. Automation is supposed to be a good thing, but capitalism doesn't know how to account for the idea of there being fewer jobs and more resources and things being more plentiful despite the ways of earning a wage being less plentiful. So it just punishes the people for existing in that society. Like, because you happen to be born into a decade where there are fewer jobs, even though everything's kind of fine anyway, you're more likely to be punished and not be able to afford a house or to pay for your student loans that you were kind of conned into getting because you were told that that was the way to succeed in society, but then maybe you don't even end up using your degree anyway, but you still have to pay for loans for decades while not being able to afford a house and so on, and all the things that you were told you're supposed to be able to get, and you're looked down upon as being lesser and lazy by older generations that don't understand the unique struggles that have cropped up since their time being in the area. So I know people who are seen as being lazy even though they have 2 jobs, or they at least are working full time, and that used to be all it took back in the day. But that's just part of what happens, especially if you refuse to acknowledge it continuously and forever, where 2 systems actively contradict each other, and the only way to move on is to actually be willing to acknowledge that. That's when you start having discussions about things that, you know, make sense, like a universal basic income or socialized medicine. I always get a kick out of people when I always get a kick out of it when people are like, I hate it when sci-fi gets political. Back in my day, sci-fi was just a fun thing and it didn't used to be all political. But like I grew up watching Star Trek Next Generation every day after school. So for me, sci-fi is inherently political, but also all sci-fi is inherently political. Like, if you ever thought it wasn't political, you were aggressively ignoring not even the subtext, but also the text of all of the sci-fi you were watching. Famously apolitical, Blade Runner. No thoughts there. Definitely didn't spawn the entire cyberpunk genre, which is itself explicitly political by nature. All about mega corporations and how and about the bleak future where automation and increased mechanization and the advancing of technology, instead of making us better off, makes us worse off. That's like built into the core DNA of the entire genre, but people plug their ears and go la 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 because they will just want to see the cool gadgets and space guns and ignore all of the things happening. I need a captain's identification cartridge. Is this where I land if I come back to this planet later? Hi, Parvati, where were you? Anyway. Die, robot. Which is itself a reference to the Philip K. Dick novel, I, Robot. I think that was Philip K. Dick, wasn't it? He has like... I think he's the specific one that had like a lot of them, actually. Like, you go to a bunch of different sci-fi things that people remember, like, shit, that was his too? That one too? That's actually funny, because didn't he write Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which Blade Runner is based on? It's funny that I was saying that, then I opened the quest log to get a reference to another Philip K. Dick novel. By the way, if you've only... There he is. If you've only ever watched Blade Runner and haven't read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, first of all, it's a quick read. It's a very short book. But also, you have not had it spoiled for you by watching the movie. So go ahead and read that book. It is so sufficiently different that it's a fundamentally different story in a lot of ways. I'm here to fuck up your square. Or just strafe a bit. Hey, buddy. That was a somewhat useful little bit of intro to one of those guys if I hadn't cleared out the entire base already. Granted, just the first enemy at said location is a similarly fitting intro to fighting them. Die, robot.
That'd be for me.
But I've always been on the opposite end of the spectrum. For me, I specifically seek out sci-fi for the commentary. That's what I'm here for. Like the implementation of Adam Jensen getting stopped at checkpoints so people can check him because he's otherized by the fact that he has augmentations on his body and Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. And so you have to live through being inconvenienced and at times threatened over and over and over again just because you want to get around town. It's maybe a little condescending, though, just because it's such a minor inconvenience, but it's trying to represent the idea of a significant, larger problem of being profiled by the police, which is a much more threatening thing when you're not a biotic super soldier, which is what you are in Deus Ex. It's like irritating paperwork from your perspective, but they're kind of trying to nod at something significantly worse that people actually have to deal with.
Bring us honor, soldier.
You don't have to worry about that scout anymore.
You beat that scout to scrap with its own legs? Pulled its optic cables out its head case? Actually, don't tell me. Rather use my imagination. You're a passing fair soldier, I will confess. But you are one, and the enemy is legion. What you need is an equalizer. A weapon to strike fear in their cold, mechanical hearts. Cantina, lavatory, behind one of the toilets. That's where I've kept it hidden all these years.
Behind one of the toilets in the cantina bathroom? You hid your secret weapon in a lavatory.
Sharp, ain't it? The lavatory is the very last place a mechanical has need to enter.
If you're expecting a mechanical invasion at any moment, shouldn't you keep it somewhere handy? I'll let you know if I find it.
On the double, soldier. Don't want the bartender poking around in there with a mop.
I'll let you be. He's a lunatic, but he's great. Phyllis has Gravesite fees, though. Supervisor at the Cannery, so we gotta head back in there. Should be able to track down what's going on. And then I'll go by the cantina. Neat. There's the Cannery. I believe I've already met Phyllis. Just kind of wandering around. Can I accost their leadership a bit? Maybe I'll take a quick elevator ride while I'm here.
What's on your mind?
Right. You're the wife of the guy whose arm got ripped off and then he died. And the other character's planning on ripping his teeth out to pay for graveyard fees. They should be going to you. Gravesite fees, I'm here to collect.
Shit. Silas still on about that. Here, take the fees. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell Reed I was late on my payment.
These papers aren't signed in your name.
Because they're not my fees and not my gravesite. Guy I worked with shot himself. I paid the bill.
You have to pay for your neighbor's gravesite fees?
If you're not familiar with board law, you ought to be. Law requires delinquent gravesite fees to be paid by the deceased party's closest living relative, which meant me. Shame, though. Eugene was a good worker.
Who the hell's Eugene? Wait, it's not the other Granger? Who's buried? You said this guy shot himself?
Woke up one morning and put a round through his upper story. Can't imagine why. The kid was doing all right at his desk. We all thought he was an upstanding receptionist. Just between the two of us, I'm pretty shocked his weapon didn't misfire. Spacer's Choice handguns aren't the most reliable.
Must be tough losing family.
Eugene wasn't family.
I thought you said you were his closest living relative.
Yeah, I was the closest living person relative to his body at time of death.
Jesus.
I'm the one who found him, you see, so I pay the fines. Suicide's a crime. The legal term is irreparable damage to company property. What Eugene did to himself was vandalism.
That's super callous ways to look at all this. Also, what the fuck? This is a system that actively incentivizes people not to report bodies they find because there's a financial debt they incur by reporting a body. You can't be serious.
I'm plenty serious. In fact, I'm a little upset Eugene didn't think things through. In other words, Edgewater would have been penalized pretty hard. Whatever Eugene was worth as an asset, we would have had to pay out of pocket to Spacer's Choice.
He was a person, not an asset.
Well, excuse you. I'll have you know, Eugene was an asset to us all. May his atoms be commended to the law. All I know is Silas asked me for Eugene's gravesite fees, which means he was approved for burial, which means his papers went through, which means the town's in the clear. I'm just glad to put this whole ugly affair behind me. Eugene can rest his bones in peace, and the rest of us can get on with our own lives.
Yeah. I'm real happy his death wasn't inconvenient for you. How the fuck does anyone not burn this place down when given the chance? I know the other place is like a little underdeveloped and so on. And there's also like maybe the consciousness, there's like this aspect of like, oh, what's gonna happen? I'm worried, but like, how the fuck do you justify keeping this going? Really hard to argue that any of this is like a good thing that would be sad to see end or whatever. Like, it's failing them now.
My offer remains standing should you reconsider. Go ahead.
What makes you think I can convince those deserters to come back?
That you or not one of us may work to your advantage. Adelaide and her folk loathe the people of Edgewater, you see. I admit the fault was mine. I'm about as diplomatic as a bristling canid. I just hope Adelaide and her folk will see their way past my flaws and return to town.
This is an ugly place to live. Of course people are going to walk away.
Nature is uglier. There is safety here. Safety and purpose. But not all of us see that. And I cannot force that vision upon them. Yes, we have lost good workers to desertion. We have lost even more to plague. But it is why we must square our shoulders and carry on.
Really hard to say that nature's uglier. It just seems like the outside world is a lot easier to explain. You and Adelaide have a personal history. I don't have enough perception, evidently.
Go ahead.
We need to have a word about this plague.
Can we not? Talking about unpleasant things always gets my bile up.
Well, I'm sorry to inconvenience you, but I found rare medicine, and your idiot system is gonna basically burn it. The fuck is wrong with you? You withhold medicine from your own workers.
If I had enough medicine to treat everyone who fell sick, I would, but I don't. I can't save everyone. So I have to choose.
I brought it. It's monstrous.
Yes, it is. And it's necessary.
Nope.
Spacer's choice is a family. And the survival of the family is more important than the survival of the individual.
How about you first, then? Or is this family not so, you know, horizontal? How long has this plague been happening?
That I cannot say. There was no moment when the plagues began. Disease always lurks on the fringes of society, waiting to infect the idle and the lethargic. But in the last 10 years, the plagues have become progressively worse and increasingly frequent.
You should have developed an immunity after repeated exposure to a single strain of contagion.
Corporate doesn't like us using the word should. It encourages the imagination. I believe plague is a test. It is a test of our loyalty and our fortitude, and it is one we will see through to the end. Go ahead. Can we not?
No, that's all we got. Why don't presidents fight in wars? Why do they always send the poor?